Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to update my Panda palette. It is going up a little bit later than normal. I had my parents visit over the past weekend, so I actually didn't end up having time to edit my last video, which was my Panda face palette, so that got postponed and was posted on the day that this video is supposed to go up, which was yesterday. And that is why this one is a little bit later than normal, but that is fine. I am filming this on the last of the month though, so I am not like getting extra uses or anything on this palette or on the palettes that I'm working on. So everything's in order when it comes to the progress for these palettes. But I'm going to jump into the update. But of course, before I do that, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would absolutely love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So if you're new to this project, which I'm assuming most of you guys aren't, I'm panning these two palettes right here. So the main palette that I have is the Soft Glam palette from Anastasia. I was panning this one in 2024 and I did not finish it. I had 7 shades left in it. Of course, I had a lot of progress on those 7 shades, but I wanted to roll them over to this year to actually completely finish this palette. So that's the first one, but since I only had mattes left in that palette, I also decided to introduce a BYOP with just singles in my collection that I want to use up for, you know, one reason or another. So how I usually do these updates is that I start off with my Soft Glam palette. So I'm going to do that today as well. And I'm going to roll the footage of what this one has been looking like since the introduction. I did end up frankening this palette a little bit at the beginning just to get some kind of more transition shades, and I have done that throughout the year as well. It is a really nice palette, and despite having to work on it for such a long time, obviously all of 2024 and this year as well, I'm not that tired of it. I am getting a little bit fed up with it, but it's mainly because I want to retry the palettes more than the fact that I don't like this palette anymore. I do still like it. I think the shades in here are really nice and universal for neutral looks, but yeah, I kind of just want this palette to be finished for the main reason that I want to reach for the rest of my collection and not neglect it. I have been working really hard and I have finished up those franken shades that I made for the most part, and then I have refrankened as well because it's a really easy way for me to get use out of those deeper shades. And this is what the palette looked like last month. I had again pretty good progress on it, and I had a couple of goals which I will cover in a second. But let me first show you what the palette looks like today. So this is what it looks like right now. There are some pretty obvious changes and I'm really happy with the progress that I'm making on this palette. And I will talk you through the usage on all of the shadows. So this is the palette right here. Of course, the comparison pictures are on this side, which I usually do. But let's talk through the shades. So the first shade of the palette is Tempera, which I have finished in 2024, and I have not used this pan for any frankens or anything. And Glistening as well, I have finished. I did use our pan for frankening, but it has been empty for a while now. Then let's move on to the shade Orange Soda, and it does look like this one was empty last month too. However, it technically wasn't, because I had this one in a franken shade, which was in the spot of rose pink, I believe. Yeah, I think I had it in the spot of rose pink, or maybe I had it in the spot of Orange Soda. I always mix it up. Let me check the pictures actually, because I always forget where this franken was housed. Yeah, it was in the shade of rose pink. So in there, I did have a franken of Orange Soda and Dusty Rose. And I'll talk about that one next, because as you can see, I was able to finish that franken, which is super exciting, and that was one of the goals that I had in the past month. I did have to work really hard on that franken to finish it though. It took me 29 additional uses in the past month to finish it, and that is a really high usage. And the reason for that is because I did use it on my eyes a lot, but I also use it as a bronzer. I believe maybe 10 to 15 out of those uses were as a bronzer, and then the rest of them were on my eyes. So still use it on my eyes for the most part, which is very good, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to like reach for other shades as well. If I wanted to finish with shadow, I knew that it would take me about a month if I only used it on my eyes. And since I was so determined to have this shadow done in Q3, I didn't want to test it that way, and it was a really nice bronzer shade for me. It matched my skin really nicely, so I was happy to be able to use it in both ways. So I'm really happy to share that that one is done. It did take me 36 uses in total to finish that franken shade, which means that those 36 uses have now been split. Well, they've gone to both Orange Soda and to Dusty Rose, because that is the content that was in this franken. And with that, I have actually now finished up all of Orange Soda. I don't have any more of that shadow left, because the remaining amount was in this franken. And since that is now done, I can tell you that Orange Soda took me 156 uses to finish up in this project. Alright, so I hope that all makes sense. We're gonna move on to this shadow right here next, which is a mix between Mulberry right there and Champs, which is in my BYOP. And I have not reached for that shade at all in the past month. I was very determined to focus on some other shades, so this is one of the ones that I kind of neglected. Then next to that we have another Franken, and that is the shade that I use in my brows, and it is a mix between Cypress Umber, a NYX cream shadow which is in my BYOP, or well, it was in my BYOP, but it's kind of housed in some of the Frankens in here, but it was originally from my BYOP. And then also a white shadow, and this Franken also has some really good progress. I use it most days, not every single time I do my makeup, but I use it quite often. And in the past month I have 19 additional uses on that Franken. Then lastly, for the top row we have Mulberry, which is the shadow right here, and I have tried to make an effort to reach for this one more because I am still determined to finish this shadow before the end of the year, which means that I have to use this one, I'm assuming, quite a bit more to get there, and in the past month I reached for it 8 times, which I am pretty happy with for now. Then let's move on to the second row. We have the shade Dusty Rose next, which is this shadow right here, and this is one that I put like a soft goal to maybe finish if I could in the past month, but as you can see I did not get there. I did use this one quite a lot though, and their pan has definitely expanded a lot in the shadow, which I am super happy to see. I did end up reaching for this one 12 times, and I'm wearing this one a little bit on my lower lash line, like right out here in the corner. But yeah, I have reached for this one quite a lot, and I definitely think I can finish this one by next month. The reason why I wanted to finish this one was because since I have used the Franken when this one was in, the Orange Soda and Dusty Rose shade, when this shadow is done, that eyeshadow is completely finished as well, but I know that I'll get there next month, so it's no rush, but it would have been fun to have that one into my like Q3 eyeshadow empties, but again, it's fine, I will definitely finish it before the end of the year. Then Fairy and Burnt Orange have been empty for a while, and I haven't had any Frankens in them for a little bit. So let's move on to the next shade, which is in the spot of Sienna, and that is a mix between Rustic, this shade right here, and the NYX cream shade again. It is the second shadow in here that has a NYX cream shade in it, and this one I did not use at all this past month either, and again just because I was so focused on first the Franken that I had on top here, and then Dusty Rose. So I'm assuming I'm going to use this one more in October, because again I haven't reached for it much since I made this Franken. Then we have Rustic, and we actually only have original shades of the palette left, and Rustic here I have reached for again a decent amount, and not as much as Mulberry, but almost. I reached for that one 7 times in the past month, and maybe you were able to see a pan expansion, maybe not. I haven't looked back at the footage yet, but I'm hoping that the pan has expanded, but overall this pan is now very thin, so once I pick up the usage for this shadow, I'm expecting the pan to expand quite quickly. Then Cypress Umber, and so fortunately another shadow in this palette that I have not used in the past month. I have been more focused on Rustic and Mulberry, and I've been doing looks where those two work better kind of with than Cypress Umber, and that's why I haven't reached for it, but I'm okay with that. Of course, ideally I want to finish that shade as well before the end of the year, so I need to make sure that I reach for it. But yeah, I just didn't get around to it this past month, and we'll see if I do that in the next month. However, the shade Noir right here I did reach for twice, not too much, and my goal is not to finish a shadow, I just want to get as much use on it as I can, and maybe hit pan on it if I can, but I'm happy with those 2 uses. Black shadows are not something that I reach for on the daily, so any use again I can get on it before the end of the year is great. Alright, so that is this palette right here. I will cover the weights of it in a second, but I want to talk through the usage and the progress on my BYOP first. So the BYOP I have is this one right here, and I'm going to roll the footage as well of what this one has been looking like. Similarly to the Soft Glam palette, I did actually end up frankening, well I didn't franken this palette, but I used a little bit of this palette to franken the Soft Glam palette. I believe the only one I did use is the NYX cream shade, which you can see there in the bottom right corner of the round big singles. But the other shadows in here I did not really feel the need to franken, just because I just love these shadows as they are. They are beautiful in the shadows for the most part, and very shimmery and glimmery, and that is why I pulled them in to complement the Soft Glam palette. I was eventually able to pan on all the shades in here, and I have since then tried to slowly work through them and finish them up, and some of them are getting more progress than others, but overall the pans are quite consistently expanding in all of the shades. I have been able to finish up one of the shades prior, which is the shade Prima Dharma, and that's one of the Colourpop singles in here. But of course I do want to ideally finish up some more shadows. This is what the palette looked like last month, and you can see that the first shade on the second row was getting quite close to being finished, so that was one of my goals in the past month. And apart from that, I wanted to reach for all of the other shades at least 3 times, so kind of no pan left behind in this palette 3 times. And this is what the palette looks like today, so you can see some obvious changes. I will also of course talk you through the usage of each individual shadow, because apart from one of the goals, which was again very obvious to track, the other one, which is the 3 uses, will be a little bit harder to see in the video. So yeah, this is the palette now. I'm really happy with the progress, and I do have a giant elephant in the room here, but I will talk about that when I get to the shadow. And we're going to start off with the first shadow instead, which is this one right here, and that is Terra Moon's Cinnamon Sugar. And that shadow I have been able to reach for a little bit this past month, but not very much. I actually only reached for that one time, and with that you can see that I have not been able to no pan left behinding this palette 3 times over. But I'm still happy with it. I have overall, I think, reached for all of the shadows like more than 3 times average if I like split it out, but some of them I reached for more than others, and this is the one that I've reached for the least, and that's kind of the theme across this whole progress this year. It's just not a favorite shadow for me, and that's why I'm not reaching for it as much, but I reached for it 1 time, which I'm still happy with. Moving on to the next shade, which is Glam Shop Pale Cuscovy or so. I can never say it. I just call it that every single time. I'm pretty sure it's not completely accurate, but it is in Polish. But it's this iridescent blue right there. And it's another one that I did not quite get my 3 uses on. I only reached for it twice, which is a little bit of a shame, but I'm still happy with those 2 uses. And I do think the pan has expanded a little bit, like towards this end right there. The next shadow, which is from the Pastel Roses, and it is the shade Bismuth. I have reached for more. This one I have completed my 3 use goal on, and I've actually surpassed it as well. I've reached for that one 5 times in the past month, so very happy with that. And that is the last shadow on the first row. Then we are moving on to the second row, and like I said, we do have a giant elephant in the room on this row, and that is the shade Bombawi, which I did want to finish this past month, and as you can see in the pictures, I was able to do that. I did not end up repressing this shadow. I think I filmed that. Did I film it? Yeah, I filmed that in a frankening session and posted that. And I did repress it after 3 uses this past month. But I kept using it, of course, after repressing it. And in total, it took me 19 uses to finish the shadow. For a total of 74 in the project. So that is only tracked uses from this year and last year. Any prior uses to that, I don't have track, unfortunately, because I didn't track all my uses before 2024. But 74 uses to finish, and I'm very happy to have another empty in this palette. Then in the center of the palette we have the shade Starlight, again from the Pastel Roses, and this again I was not quite able to reach for 3 times, but I did get 2 uses on it, which is really good. The reason why I didn't reach my No Pan Left Behind 3 times over in all the shadows as much as I wanted is because Bombawi took me longer to finish than I expected, and so that was my main lid shade for majority of the month, because I mean 19 uses is a lot. I did use it on my nails once, so that was 5 uses, but the 14 other uses I did use it on my eyes. Again, it was definitely on repeat on my eyes, and that is why I was not able to reach those 3 uses on every single shade, but still very happy with that. The next shadow, however, is the shade Laser right here, and that one I have reached for 6 times. 1 of them was on my eyes and 5 was on my nails. I'm actually wearing this as a topper on my nails right now. I do need to redo my nails, so they're not in the best shape, but I'm using like a deep purple nail polish, and then I topped it with Laser, and it turned this really like, it's a super cool like duochrome multichrome type of look, and I'm really pleased with it that way. And I'm also happy that I was able to get 6 uses on it. And this is now the shadow that I'm closest to finish out of the remaining ones, so I'm definitely going to hone in on this shade quite a bit moving forward. Then we have the shade Vegas Biz right here. I was able to reach for that one 5 times. And same with the shade Starburst, also from the Pastel Roses, and that one I also reached for 5 times. So again, I did surpass my usage goal on some of these shades, but just not all of them. But yeah, very happy with that. Then we have the NYX Cream Depot shade, which is empty right now, but I do have again some of that shadow left in my Soft Glam palette, so I'm not counting this one as done until those Frankens are finished. But as of now, I do have 79 uses on this shade in here to finish, and then of course I am kind of tallying up the Franken users, which will be added on top of that once I finished all of shades in the Soft Glam palette. Then let's move on to the 3 shades here on the side, which are all from Colourpop. The shade Kaleidoscope right here, I was able to reach for 3 times, so very happy with that. The shade Prima Drama I had already finished, which I mentioned earlier, and that one took me 28 uses to finish. It was a pressed glitter, which is why it was a bit quicker to finish, but very, very happy with that. And then lastly, for this palette, we have the shade Champs right here, which is another one that I was able to surpass my 3 use goal on. I used this one 5 times, so very, very happy because it's another shade that I really want to try to finish this year. So yeah, that is this palette right here, and I am overall very, very happy. I hope you can see some pan expansions on some of the shades, and the most exciting thing is of course that I was able to finish a shadow in this palette too, which means I actually have 2 eyeshadow empties from my Panna palette this month. I have the shade Blonde Bowie from this palette, and then the shade Orange Soda from my Soft Glam. So speaking of my Soft Glam, we're going to cover the weights of this one next. And this palette had a remaining weight to finish up, if I go off the advertised weight and not how much I finished in 2024. It had a remaining weight to finish of 3.75 grams, which means that on average I have to finish 0.31 grams per month to be on track. In Q1 I was able to finish not that much product. I think this one has been not very accurate because of humidity and stuff. I mentioned that every single update because it's been very kind of temperamental, I guess, throughout the year. But in Q1 I finished 0.57 grams, and so that was Q1. And then in Q2 I only finished 0.11 grams, which I don't think is accurate at all, but that is just what the weight says. I am assuming that there was like a heightened humidity in summer, and then this palette kind of gained a lot of weight because of the humidity, because yeah, those kind of warmer months, summer months, were really, really, you know, abysmal weight loss every single month. Some of the months, 2 of the months, I even gained weight, which wasn't ideal. But let's move on to Q3, and in July I was able to finish 0.04 grams, and I think again that's because of humidity most likely, because I definitely think I used more of this palette than that, because I do reach for this one quite consistently. But since that point I have kind of seen a more stable weight loss, and in August I was able to finish 0.36 grams, and at that point the palette weighed 155.96 grams, so that was last month. And I'm very, very, very happy to report that this palette now weighs 155.46 grams, which means that I was able to finish exactly half a gram from this palette in the past month, which I again think is definitely more accurate than the previous months, and I definitely think that this kind of has stabilized now with humidity now when we are past summer. So I'm super, super happy to see that. And as of now, because I cannot tally up Q3 use as well, I have been able to finish 0.90 grams in Q3, which again I think is more accurate, and that is actually almost on par with the average I need to finish per month. That would have been 0.93 grams, so basically on par, which I am super happy with, especially because July I think was a bit off. And that means that this palette is now sitting at a total of 1.58 grams finished this year. Then we also have my BYOP, which I don't have an advertised weight of anything, so I don't have an average I need to finish each month, but I'm going to cover how much I have used per quarter as of like leading up to now, and also per month. So in Q1 I was able to finish 1.74 grams from this palette, which I was super, super happy with. That is a pretty good number. Yeah, very happy. And then in Q2 I did not do quite as well, but I still did a really good amount of use, and I had 1.11 grams of finished product in Q2. Moving on to Q3, in July I was able to finish exactly half a gram out of this palette, so 0.50. In August I was able to finish 0.66 grams, so even higher, and at that point the palette weighed 150.70 grams, which again was last month, and today this palette weighs 150.03 grams, which means that I was able to finish the most out of this quarter, and that is 0.67 grams in the past month, which again I'm very, very, very happy with, and that gives me a total use in Q3 of 1.83 grams, which is the best quarter so far this year. And for this specific palette, I have a total use of 4.68 grams, so very, very good and much higher than the Soft Glam palette. So that is all of the use that I have in this past month from those two palettes. And if you tally up how much I was able to finish up of both of the palettes, I have like an unofficial goal to finish a gram each month, which again, I don't think it's been accurate because of the humidity with the Soft Glam palette again. But this month I actually surpassed it, and it was my best month so far between the two palettes because I was able to finish 1.17 grams across both of them. So very, very pleased. I am super happy to see that the weights are going down now, because, you know, I was a little bit disheartened throughout like the summer period and when the palettes were gaining weight, or the Soft Glam palette was gaining weight. But I am so thrilled to see the higher numbers in the weights this month. Alright, so the last thing to do is to talk through my goals. I'm going to start off with the Soft Glam palette. And this one does of course have some shades left, but it's getting a little bit worn down. And my goal is to finish all of the shades apart from the black, so that would be these shades right here. And in the next month, I want to finish 2 of those shades, and that is the shade Dusty Rose, which I have already been working on quite a lot, and then also this Franken right here, which is with Mulberry and Champs, because if I can finish that, I might even be able to Franken some more of that to help with Mulberry, and that's kind of why I want to get it out this month. And actually, I'm going to put in a third shadow to finish, and that would be my Eyebrow Franken, because I'm very, very close with it already on its own, so I don't think it's going to be very hard. And similarly, when I finish that, I'm going to Franken some new shade, like new brow shades using Cypress Umber. I don't have any more of the NYX shade that I have in here though, in the Franken for my eyebrows, but I think I'm going to use a little bit of Champs again for my BYOP, and then a white, and I think I can make a nice Franken that way. And then apart from finishing those shades, the last goal I have is to pan on this kind of Franken shade right here, just because I haven't reached for it at all, and I do want to finish that one of course before the end of the year. So I think hitting pan on it next month is going to motivate me to get there, and also get a head start on finishing it maybe the month after that. So that is my Soft Glam palettes and all the goals I have for this one. Then for my BYOP, I don't think I can finish anything in the next month. I think I'm too far away on all of the shades in here. However, I've had a little think of this palette because I don't think I can finish all of the shades in here. So I decided to kind of look through the shades and think of like which shadows I realistically can finish this year, or at least get close to. So I did kind of pick some, I guess, main focus shades for this palette. And those are this kind of quad right here and Champs right here. So it is the shade Pale Cuscovy, we have Bismuth, Starlight and Laser. So those 4 right here, plus again Champs, are going to be like my focus shadows for the remaining months of the year. So like the last quarter of the year, just because I do think I might be able to finish those or get close at least. The rest of the shadows, which are Cinnamon Sugar, this here is, what's it called, Vegas Bliss and Starburst. Those shades, and also Kaleidoscope. Those shadows I will use as I kind of feel like it, but I don't think I can finish those. So in order to kind of get a head start on those shadows that I want to ideally finish, those 5, my goal would be to reach for those 5 10 times each. So again, it's these shadows right here. I want to use those 10 times each, which I think should be doable since I'm not reaching for like focusing on this whole palette, and I do definitely want to step up my usage game on both of these 2 palettes because we are very, very rapidly getting close to the end of the year. But that is going to be it for this video today. I am super happy with the progress this past month. I think it's been one of our most exciting updates for a while, and I'm hoping to keep that momentum going moving forward, and I can have another good update next month. But I hope you guys are having the best day wherever you are, and I will of course catch you in my next one. And that's gonna be up tomorrow because this is kind of like a bonus video, I guess, because I did miss that one upload. So yeah, my rolling project pan will be up tomorrow, and I will catch you then. Bye guys.